So today's video is all about what we enjoyed reading over school break. There were so many to pick from, but for the sake of the video, I decided to just choose a few to share. Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be one of my favorite type of videos to make here on my channel, which is where I get to sit down and talk to you guys about books. Today's video, before I jump in, is actually a part of a collab hosted by Alicia over at DAC Family. Please be sure to check the description box for not just the link to her channel, but the playlist, because there are other homeschool moms who are joining in on this collaboration and basically just sharing how our summer reading went. Now, we are year-round homeschoolers. We don't take what most would consider like an extended summer break. But this year we did take about 2.5 weeks off from school in between grades or whatever. And we have thoroughly enjoyed and have taken great advantage of the fact that we live near a wonderful library now. And so we have checked out so many books and have found so many that we enjoyed reading together. And some of these have already been like renewed checkouts, like we've already checked them out more than once, or just kept renewing them until we couldn't anymore. Because we've just enjoyed them just that much. Let's get started. Let's jump into what books we enjoyed reading. I've really been enjoying normalizing it being the case that we read stories about people who are from places that we're not familiar with, people who have different life experiences than we're accustomed to hearing about. Sugar and Milk is a story about immigration pretty much. And so this little girl, she is off to, she's been sent to live with her aunt and uncle, and she's talking about just how lonely she feels. She's talking about all these things that she misses from back home. And so she goes on a walk with her auntie, and then her aunt starts to share with her this story about some foreigners who come up on this island, and this is the king, and they're approaching him and they're wanting to live in his kingdom. And he lets them know, no, they don't have room. They don't even understand each other. Well, it's through a cup of milk and sugar added. You kind of have to read the story to understand, but it's through a cup of milk and sugar being added to it that the king realizes that even though they don't necessarily speak the same language, they can definitely live amongst each other in peace and share that land together. I love the illustrations. You can see this is a pretty book. We are probably going to buy it because this is one of the stories that we read over break that the kids really enjoyed. So Sugar and Milk, and then I have Brick by Brick. So oddly enough, I got to put to use these little bit of Spanish that I learned in school because I didn't realize that this book was bilingual, at least a little bit. It's not a lot, it's just a little. But this was another one that they enjoyed, and it's about a little boy whose dad, he does construction work, and it's really just kind of sharing how they both work hard. It's about a little boy and his dad, and they're going back and forth in the book, showing how his dad is working hard, helping to build up the city. But then he works hard by going to school, getting his education and things like that. And so he says his dad is working towards his dream brick by brick, and he is working towards his dream book by book. And so this is a really sweet story. It's important for me to bring in picture book read alouds where our kids can see active dads, where they can see loving dads, and really see, that I think it's important that they see that positive male role model throughout stories that we read. So this was one of the ones I was glad to have come across. And then Let Me Fix You a Plate, A Tale of Two Kitchens. So this story is about a family who's on a road trip. They go to visit both sides of their family. One side of their family is in, I believe, West Virginia. Yeah, West Virginia. And that side of their family is white. And then they go to Florida where they visit the other side of their family, which is Hispanic. And so really just highlighting the different interactions that take place in each kitchen, what they look like, and basically just the differences there. And then it also highlights the different foods that they have based on which set of grandparents they are visiting. So I thought this was a really cool little read aloud, and definitely another way to highlights cultural differences with the type of foods that we eat and how we even prepare them. A Different Pond. This was a sweet read aloud. We only read it once, but I really liked reading this story with the kids. So it's about a dad and his son going fishing. They're catching fish for the family to eat that day. And what made this story so sweet is the fact that the dad, they are immigrants from Vietnam, and his dad is kind of talking about like the conversation between him and his son. It's a highlight with what immigrants can experience when they move here to America. So he talks about how someone pretty much made fun of his English, and his son is like, well, your English sounds fine to me. It's those types of issues that people who move here to America can and do experience. And then he mentions something about the pond that they're fishing in, and then the dad kind of goes into this story about the pond that he loved back in his home country. And so that's why it's called A Different Pond. Kalamata's Kitchen. This was another food-based read aloud that we read together. But this one's about a little Indian girl, and she's going to school or set to go to school for the first day. And she's super, super nervous. And so she kind of transports to like her place of comfort to help her deal with her nerves. And that place of comfort is the spice market back in India. I thought it was cool to read this with the kids because we are just coming from the Middle East, and a lot of these elements were familiar to them. Things like hearing her describe like the smell of spices like turmeric, cinnamon, and all of that in the spice market, and her description of all the rice dishes and the Indian dal and things like that. And so this made for a really fun read aloud. And as you can see, her imagination just like ran wild. So her portal, so to speak, was her dining room table, and she like decorated it and had all those lights and things like that. So that was how she went to her happy place. But yeah, this was a fun little read aloud, and the illustrations were really, really nice too. So yeah. Nora Scribbles Save the Day. We read this one several times. So if you're familiar with the book The Dot or The Magnificent Thing, this book has elements in it that kind of make me think of those two stories. But basically, if you have a creative child, they probably will take interest in this book. So this book is pretty much about creator's block, the blank page if you're a writer. So she ends up falling into a blank page because she can't really think of what to draw. And so then in the blank page comes other creatives. And so they realize that they're stuck in this blank page. And so they have to create their way out. And then it also highlights in this story how as artists, as creatives, not everyone understands or gets the point in your works, and how difficult that can be to navigate. And so I like this story. I thought it was really creatively written. So Nola Scribbles Save the Day. And then we have probably my 2-year-old's absolute favorite new book that we found. I'm gonna have to buy it eventually. The Wild Symphony. So this book actually has corresponding music. You scan the QR code. I don't know if you were to buy this from Amazon, if it will come with a CD or anything, but you can scan that code and you can download this app that has the corresponding music for each of the animals' pieces. So it's written in verse. So like the mouse says his bit, and then you have the birds, they're saying their bit. And at the end of each one, they have like their little life lesson. Like even when life seems messy, there's beauty to be found everywhere. It's great to admire the skills of others, but don't forget that you have special talents too. Little things like that. And once you get to the end of the book, all the animals have come together. They've chimed in and created their very own symphony. And so the kids really, really enjoyed us reading this book, especially when we incorporated the music app that goes with it. And lastly, Jazz for Lunch. For as many times as we read this book, I think I actually started to get tired of saying the word jazz. At any rate, this story highlights famous jazz musicians, actually. And so this, I think it's her nephew, I kind of forget. Yeah, the nephew. They are out with their auntie Nina, and they were trying to go see some or listen to some jazz, but didn't quite work out how they expected because they couldn't, it was so packed they couldn't get up front. So they go home, they start making lunch, and they're basically making lunch to this jazz music. And so they start naming all of their dishes. Like they had Billie Hollandaise sauce. What was the other ones? It was kind of funny. Nat King coleslaw. And then they had Theolania's monk fish, Art pepper steak, Dexter Gordon cheesecake. And so yeah, and the kids, they love books centered around music in general, but for whatever reason, maybe it's because me and my husband play instrumentals a lot in the house, but they really love jazz music themed books, because this is like the third one that we've come across, and they've been like, we want to read it again. But yeah, especially when it gets to parts like this, like where you drop your tone real low, it's like, let it cool, let it cool. They really love that. But yeah, it makes it fun. So jazz for lunch, that was another favorites from our break. So what have you guys been reading lately? Drop that down in the comments below. I want to see. And don't forget to check the playlist down in the description box for the link to the other homeschool moms videos where they are sharing what they have read over the summer break, school break, whatever you want to call it, as well. Thank you guys so much for watching.